Hey, how's it
Mike.
going?
Hey, Jim. Let's give it one more minute here. Sam, I think we've got quorum, so we can go ahead.
Recording in progress.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Planning Board for October 23rd, 2024. Pam, you want to please take attendance?
Sure. Michael Gore,
Here.
James Bard,
Here.
Robert Romer,
Here.
Austin Groner,
Here.
Michael Lau,
Here.
and Eric Nyland is absent.
Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing for two items, a special permit application backland lot for Green Road and Harvard Road.
I'll read the public hearing notice.
Sure, thank you.
In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom video communications to hear and act upon the application of Cody Contracting LLC for property owned by Fiddler Green Realty Trust. The applicant is seeking to create two backland lots by special permit pursuant to Section 250-13 of the Code of the Town of Bolton in the residential zoning district for property identified on Assessor's Map 6C, parcels 38.1 and 53.1 located on Green Road and Harvard Road. Application and plans are available for review online with the website listed. This public hearing will be conducted via remote participation pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 30A, Section 18. Login information is provided below and posted on the town calendar on the homepage of Bolton's website at www.townofbolton.com. Then the Zoom information is listed, and this was also advertised in the Bolton Independent on October 9th and October 16th.
Thanks, Pam. So there's two parts to this. This is creating 5 lots on the corner of Green Road and Harvard Road. The first bit of this, the public hearing, is specifically for the 2 backland lots. So we're going to discuss that first as part of the hearing, and then we'll vote on the A&R afterwards. Is there someone here on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, this is Brandon Ducharme with David E. Ross.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Go ahead and give us a quick overview.
Sure. So pretty straightforward. It's an 18-acre piece of land that's comprised of 2 parcels. And with that, we're looking to subdivide that through the A&R process, as well as creating 2 backland lots, as you referred to. Lots 1, 2, and 4 are traditional lots. This land is located on the southwest side of the intersection of Green Road and Harvard Road. Lots 1, 2, and 3 are all in excess of 80,000 square feet. They have greater than 200 feet of frontage, and they meet the lot width at 100 feet back, greater than 150 feet. Lots 3 and 5 are backland special permit lots. As such, they have greater than 50 feet of frontage Lot 3 gains the frontage off of Green Road. Lot 5 acquires that frontage from Harvard Road. They're in excess of 4.5 acres, and they have greater than 1.5 acres of upland area.
Okay.
And just for note, lots 3 and 5 will be accessed by a shared driveway that'll come from Green Road. And you can see the easement. There's a proposed access and utility easement there.
Yeah, great. So we'll just focus on the backland lots today. I was saying to Pam, it's like this parcel was pretty much tailor-made for our backland lot bylaw, where you've got about 220 feet of separation between the two frontages. So
Yep,
yeah,
exactly. Yep.
yeah. This is straightforward to me. It meets all the zoning bylaws. Did anyone on the board have questions about the two backland lots? We're talking about lots 3 and 5. Pam, maybe you could just kind of hover over those and show where they are. Anyone on the board have questions? Anyone in the audience have questions? Okay. If there's no other discussion, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
the special permit's approved by a vote of 5-0.
Well, we closed the
Oh, I'm sorry.
closed the hearing. Okay.
Sorry. The
Now
hearing's closed by a vote of 5-0.
I will make a motion to approve the special permit for the backland lots of lot 3 and 5 for assessors map 6C parcels 38.1 and 53.1.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye. The second part of this, which is not a public hearing, is an A&R to create lots 1 through 5 on the plan. So Brandon, I don't know if you had anything else to add to that.
No, I mean, basically that initial overview kind of just describes each of the lots and how it conforms to the traditional zoning.
Yep. The lot 4, that is going to have, so there will be 4 driveways in total out of this project. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And all on Green Road.
Yes. Yep.
I know that's not part of the A&R, but do you have a feeling for where the lot 4 driveway is going to be? Just based on that intersection right there.
Yeah, and again, I'm kind of hoping to submit this week. Green Road is a scenic road, so we will be coming before you guys for the scenic road approval on those driveways. But where you see the frontage for lot 3, that backland lot where it comes out, there's an existing cart path, if you're familiar with the area.
Yeah, so
And
there's a barn right there, a two-car garage barn sort of structure. Is that what we're talking about?
yeah, so basically lot 1 and 2 is the open field, which is the old cornfield. And then
Yep.
you can see on this plan where that existing garage is to be removed. And then
Oh, yep, okay.
yep, between lots 2 and 3 is there's a stone wall that basically borders that field. And then I would say 25-30 feet into that frontage of lot 3, there's an existing cart path that heads back into the property. Lot 4 will probably, the driveway as proposed now is probably going to be another, let's just say 35-40 feet from where that existing cart path is.
One quick question. I think on lot 4, do I see also another stone wall there that kind of cuts through the center of the property?
Yep, that's an interior stone wall. And again, if you're familiar with the piece, there's another, it used to be a cornfield there, but it's still somewhat an open field. And that stone wall kind of borders the field to the existing wooded area.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or discussions about the A&R for the 5 lots? Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so on that intersection, so where's the lot 4 driveway gonna be? Exactly?
We just talked.
So it's
We
going to
just talked
be
about
right
that.
by, yep, sorry, where the R and road is on Green
Oh,
Road,
okay.
kind of right in
Yeah.
that area there. Yep.
So that's, yeah, I mean, just because that's just wondering how close that is to the intersection, but
Yeah, no, there's definitely
yeah.
a few hundred feet before you get to that intersection. Yep.
And lot 5 is it's gonna be on the Harvard Road, that little sliver there? Where-
Nope. So it's actually gonna be a shared driveway between 3 and 5
Oh, okay,
that's going to come
okay.
out there. Yep.
Got it, cool.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to to approve the A&R for lots 1 through 5, assessors map 6C, parcels. Oh no, it's just this. The whole property is map 6C. Is that how we're referring to this, Pam?
There's 2 mapping parcels, but you can refer to the approval not required plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the A&R for lots 1 through 5 at the intersection of Green Road and Harvard Road.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
and Michael Lau.
Aye.
Okay, guys. Good
Oh,
luck.
I as well, you missed me, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, we only have 5 votes.
yeah, so I think you just don't do the associate.
Going back
You
on
could-
mute.
You showed up late to the
All right,
meeting,
I didn't-
that's why.
I was here, I just wasn't saying anything.
Miss.
I just missed roll call.
Okay.
I heard the whole meeting.
Yeah, my list doesn't work when I'm sharing screen, so I can't see who comes in.
Yeah, I was at
Okay.
7:01.
Good luck, Brandon. If you're still
All right.
there.
Thank you very much. Yep. Have a great
And
night.
we'll see you for the scenic tree hearing at some point, you said?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get that this week. So yeah, the next available meeting. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, next item is review of possible zoning bylaw changes. So we talked about some of these at the last meeting. And Pam, you were gonna put together a little more wording around the ADU bylaw to start with.
Yeah, we discussed this at the last meeting and it's taking a minute to load and then I'll share my screen. It was we decided to ultimately allow all accessory dwelling units by site plan review and not continue with the special permit for the detached units. So I revised it to reflect the site plan review requirement. If that's the way the board still wants to continue, it will require public notice in the newspaper and a butter notification for all the accessory dwelling units, just so you're aware of that.
Is that because of the site plan review or is that? just-
Yeah,
Okay, so but the site plan review says we can choose to review it, right? That's the difference between special permit and site plan review, is it's optional for us to review.
that's if you're doing site plan, if you're gonna require a filing, we have to do a butter notification. So
What-
a site plan, we can require plan submissions for the board review, but then if you can't pick and choose what you're gonna bring to public hearing.
But this still
Does that make
requires,
sense?
not exact. So what's the difference between a special permit and a site plan review then?
Site
just that
plan
we-
review, you're not reviewing the use, you're reviewing the site development, so things like traffic flow, lighting, parking requirements, grading. Special permit, you have discretion over the use that's proposed. So site plan review still, it's not a public hearing, but it still requires public notice.
But if the use is residential, right? What does the special permit add, I guess, in that case?
We don't have it written as special permit.
I was just
We
asking
do now
what
for
would it?
detached, so it would be up, it's discretionary based on the board's review of the application.
I mean, I think I was under the impression a special permit, we can choose to approve or not, right? But a site
Right.
plan review, we can't deny it.
Not typically, it means the use is allowed, but you're just reviewing the site development conditions.
But are there any, I guess, are there any circumstances where with a site plan, would we make recommendations if we saw something egregious or what?
Mhm.
Okay, okay. So it would
Yes.
just be recommendation, but there's no, I guess, requirement by the applicant to follow through with those.
No, there would be. They'd be obliged to follow the conditions.
Okay,
So things like, you can say this accessory apartment doesn't look, I don't like the way it's proposed, I'm gonna deny it, you can't develop it. That wouldn't be allowed under site plan review, but you could say, move your driveway, the line of sight isn't appropriate. We'd like to get rid of this retaining wall, maybe you can move this grading this way. That type of thing would be appropriate for site plan review.
got it.
And there is an appeal process, but it's not an outlined appeal process in MGL, and there's no appeal period after the decision's issued. So once you approve it, they can begin.
And does the site plan review just apply to the 900 to 1200 square foot, or does it also?
I did it for all three, just because
And
of the
that- I was gonna say,
criteria we had.
that's allowed with the state bylaw?
Yeah, you can require site plan review. For the state definition of accessory dwelling units, but you can't require a special permit.
Okay. So
So,
again, this
Pam-
means all, oh, sorry, Bob, but just to clarify, so this means any ADU that someone wants to do comes before the board.
Yes, that's the way it's written. We
Yeah.
can change that.
That's regardless of attached or detached. Okay.
Yes, attached or detached and irrelevant to the size, so any size ADU.
Mhm.
I thought we had said we wanted to apply the same, I might have misunderstood that we wanted to apply the same review criteria to all of them.
Sorry, Bob, I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, that was my question, whether it was gonna be a consistent approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was of the mind that I would like to have the board have the opportunity to review things if necessary, but to waive that if we felt it was straightforward. Is it possible to write it in that way?
I know we had discussed that, but it was difficult to, you have to specify what criteria would make you further review a proposal. You can't kind of pick and choose
Mm,
without certain specifications, what you want to review in greater detail and not,
mhm.
if that makes sense.
No, that does. That- so again, just for the other members of the board, that means that we'd be reviewing all of these. Basically, it's not really a big change before. It's I guess, a difference without a distinction without a difference. Whereas instead of it being a special permit, it's just going to be a site plan review, but it's basically the same process. I guess it's not a public hearing, Pam. It's just a regular meeting?
It's a public meeting where abutters are notified and it's on the agenda and a decision is rendered, but there's no appeal period.
Okay. So
And
this, I mean,
I kept the
Go ahead.
size maximums the same as what's in the existing bylaw, so it's 1/3 of an attached. 1/3 of the single family home square footage, gross floor area, for an attached accessory dwelling unit, and then 1,200 square feet for a detached. And that's what we currently have. Let me pull it up. So we have to change the use table and add a few definitions. So I did it, we have to accept this state's definition, as you probably recall,
Mhm.
for an accessory dwelling unit. So that's verbatim from Mass General Law. And then we created, you have to call something larger than 900 square feet, something else. So I just labeled it as large accessory dwelling unit. LADU, and then there's a large detached accessory dwelling unit, and that really the only difference between them is the maximum size that's allowed.
In the definition for like the large accessory dwelling unit, the fact that we include the 1/2 the gross floor area, should that almost implies that if someone had a smaller house, a large ADU could be less than 900 square feet? How did the state one do
Yes.
it? Did they just
It's
say 900 square feet?
it's 1/2 the gross floor area of the house or 900 square feet,
And
whichever is smaller.
that's what the
So if you have a 1,200 square foot house, you can only do a 600 square foot accessory dwelling unit.
uh
Yeah.
yep. So it's not necessarily just anything over 900 square feet. And I can't remember, did the state law talk about floor area, or did it just specify up to 900 square feet, regardless of what the house size
That's
is?
verbatim from the state law, that accessory
Okay.
dwelling unit definition. So it's 1/2 the gross floor area of the principal dwelling or 900 square feet. And then that was highlighted because we went with, we have 1/3 of the gross floor area of a single family home, and we don't have a maximum on that for attached.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept it that way. So it's categorized as attached, anything over 900 square feet up to 1/3 of the gross floor area of the single family house. And then the detached, we still kept a maximum of 1,200 square feet, so
I was
it just
following
gives you a
you.
little extra space for a detached unit.
I was following you until that last part. So I think the first clause made sense to me in terms of the maximum size. Anything above that, above 900 square feet or above, I guess, half of the gross floor area, that's considered large. But what, I guess I don't understand the last part.
Anything in excess of that
Yeah, I guess I don't understand.
falls under the
1/3 of
different
gross floor
definition. We're
area.
just allowing accessory dwelling units larger than the state does, but because the state said the definition for ADUs, we have to call them something else. So we
Right.
can't wrap it into the accessory dwelling unit definition.
So it's called the large accessory
Right,
dwelling unit. Okay.
right. Because it exceeds the state definitions.
Is everyone on the board good with the site plan review? Again, that's So that means these all come before the board.
That seems fine to me.
When we're talking about driveways, you can't add a second driveway to a property, right? It has to be on the same driveway.
We currently allow it
We allow,
at the board's discretion.
yeah, so I think site plan review probably is good for that, because if it's like a tricky.
Mhm.
If it's near an intersection or something, and all of a sudden you're gonna have two driveways, you know, yeah, so I think. Site plan, if probably 99% of the time it's fine, but it probably is good to take a look at it.
Anything else?
Pam,
to
can you just go
discuss?
back
Sure.
up to the large? In the last line there, family dwelling unit.
Just the spelling there, I think, right?
Yeah, right.
I think it's just one single dash family. Oh, no.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I misread it. That's right. Oh, okay, under large accessory dwelling unit, I think you need to add on the end of that, a gross floor area of the principal single family dwelling unit, right?
I think it's in the first part of that last clause. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Right, okay. Okay,
Just switch. Want me to switch it?
right.
Okay, well, we have time, if you want to go through and make comments in the Google Drive, I track changes, but I can put a clean version in there just so it's easier to review.
It seems straightforward to me.
Explain the 1/3 number,
I'm still confused
Again?
about that.
please. Yeah, I mean, because like, how can that, I mean, if it's one,
1/3 is less than 1/2.
we're capping, yeah, but we're capping this is for ones that are bigger than 900 square feet and also less than half the gross floor area. We cap those at,
Eh.
we don't cap them at a square footage. We cap them at 1/3 of the. So you could have a, 6,000 square foot house,
And a 2,000 square foot ADU.
2,000 square
Yeah,
attached ADU.
I see now. That makes
Okay.
sense.
That's what I was
That-
looking for.
That's what, yeah,
That,
needs to be
yeah,
added.
that limits it to based on the size of the house.
yes.
Whereas we're doing a 1,200 square foot cap on the detached one. Okay. Everyone good with that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
we had
happy
to
with the
take-
sentence.
And then we just had to take out the occupancy requirements, but other than that, it's pretty similar to what's there.
Okay, that one looks good. So the next, anything else to discuss on that one, Pam? It seems,
No, if you're in agreement with those size requirements, then I think we're all set.
yeah. I mean, essentially, we're not changing any of our size requirements from what exists today. Well, all we're really doing is categorizing things differently.
Right, and then taking the special permit requirement
Special
away
permit.
for detached, all
Yep.
detached, yep.
Yes. Yeah, okay. No, that's good. So the next one on the list there was Phosphorid, and then you have cottage overlay with it. So I mean, are we talking about those two things together,
Well,
or
they kind of become mismatched, like kind of mashed together with Randall's suggestions. So the Fosford now, in a way, the Fosford now allows for 15,000 square foot lots. But they still have to be single family homes.
Yes.
So I didn't know if we wanted to keep that in there and keep them separate. It seems more in line with the cottage overlay intentions. But we can keep it part of Fosford. I'm just worried it may deter people from voting, supporting any changes that we propose.
yeah,
What,
I don't
because it's
think
single family,
What's that?
just because of the single family, I
No,
guess.
just the density, and then there's a few things in the Fosford. I think we can take a lot of it out and put it in regulations to accompany it. It's it's 14 pages.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Phosphorid.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very long.
So my thought was to take the design criteria, the 4 steps, and put it in the bylaw, and then put a lot of this extra criteria in regulations.
Yeah,
There-
that was exactly my perspective, Pam. The only thing I saw missing from the cottage was the 4-step approach to design, and
Mhm.
that's pretty good. And I think we should incorporate it at one place or another, but to me, there's an awful lot of philosophy in the
Yeah.
comments, the revision that Randall put together. Good stuff, but wow. It's, it's the sort of thing that might be put in a guideline to help
Mhm.
people understand the philosophy behind it and things they may want to do. But to, memorialize that in a many, many, many page bylaws and just an awful lot.
Agree with that. But still kind of so Pam, it sounds like you want to redo some of the Phosphorid stuff anyway, right? To
Yeah, I just
simplify that.
before it's a lot of work to get into it, so I just wanted to go through some questions and make sure you were in agreement before I create drafts. I wanted to pull like we discussed, pull a lot of the guideline stuff out and put it in regulations.
Mhm.
But I also wanted to discuss the 15,000 square foot lot reduction and make sure the board's in agreement with keeping that in the Fosford bylaw. And I also he proposes density increases for every acre in excess of 50% of open space that's preserved, and we need to cap that. And we also need to put criteria on the additional open space that's preserved. So there's some details I want to add to that.
You're
But we
looking
would
at
keep multifamily, multi-unit structures.
That's not allowed in this one, only in the cottage.
Yeah, I think that's something one way or another we need to address fairly soon.
Yeah, I think that what we did with the cottage overlay, I think we should add that into the mixed use village overlay. Because they were thinking more like it would be like a one building with apartments and then like shops underneath. But I think, having the cottage, like a cottage aspect to it with commercial buildings up front is probably a way that we can update it.
So you want to put the cottage, like a potential cottage overlay into the existing?
Yeah, because I'm
Um,
thinking like the
mixed use?
Kane property, right? The Kane property has like a back area that's a lot of residential, right? And I think like if you read through the mixed use village overlay, it kind of gears towards maybe more like row townhouses. So, I mean, but I don't think we should, you know, limit ourselves to that. I think like, you know, maybe we have a little cottage district with, you know, some business up front or something. You know, I think maybe that's a better way to modernize the mixed use
I mean,
village overlay.
the use village overlay, that allows for like row house type stuff, but it requires business as part of it, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you know, it doesn't have to be like adjacent. It could be like you know, you could have like their property in particular, it's 27 acres, like the back, I don't know, third of it is residential zoned and the front portion is business zone. So maybe in the back you do have like a Bolton Woods Way type neighborhood, and then up front you have, you know, some type of development where, you know, and I'm just trying to think of a way to make it more developable.
Yeah, but I think you've got to be very careful that if you have, well, first of all, the cottage overlay would be applicable to anything that would use a phosphid as a basis. I think you got to be very careful about having a mixed use that could be applied elsewhere in town, because you're going to get a lot of reaction to that.
Well, there's a mixed use
It
village
can't
overlay.
be, right? It's,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
an overlay.
there's already only
It's
certain
defined.
places where the mixed use, yeah.
Yeah. it's
Okay,
defined.
So
and
we can
that's-
add aspects of the cottage overlay, but I think that cottage overlay should stand on its own
Yeah,
and be allowed in.
absolutely.
For sure.
Okay,
That's what I think. Yeah,
Yeah, the
this is why
cottage-
I'm getting, we seem to be mixing them all up together here, and
Yeah.
We shouldn't.
definitely not, especially with cottage. Because I mean, I do like cottage is our best chance to get a little bit of like
Yeah.
dense residential,
Yeah,
right? And let's kind of focus on that and not confuse the matter by trying to. I mean, I guess you could say something like cottage could be allowed within the mixed use village overlay, right? Because
But
that's
not- yeah.
Not really, because the mixed use village overlay is supposed to be a way to make business development easier, like having a residential portion to it.
Actually, Eric, are you saying that cottage would be a good neighbor to mixed use? Because if that's the case, I think that actually makes a lot of
Just
sense.
so we're not getting confused, cottage overlay could be in the residential zone. And it's just intended to be a more dense residential. Mixed use village overlay is supposed to be a way to make a business develop maybe more economical. Like you have some retail, and then some portion of it is residential.
business
So-
and housing together.
Yeah, exactly. And that mixed use village overlay is basically right around 495 if you go look at the overlay zone. In Kane property being part of it. But like up to now, I think developers have said that it doesn't really, they can't make it work financially. So I think maybe we need to figure out why that is. And so I was saying, you know, maybe like a cottage, you know, aspect to it, you know, somehow. That's all I was saying.
Why couldn't they just? I mean, if we do cottage and it's just residential, why couldn't they just build cottage in that area that's residential
Yeah.
of that?
So I need to, I don't know, because it's all one property. So I don't know. They'd have to divide it out. Maybe I have to read it through it again. I don't know. I just remember it being kind of like more geared towards like row houses sort of thing.
Sure, but there's a residential piece on that land, whereas like
Yeah.
if we pass a cottage overlay, like they could presumably use that on the residential piece of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely as I see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so just to go back to the phosphid part. So Pam, I guess I'm a little bit confused. So did you want to put parts of the cottage overlay into the phosphid, or are you just saying?
Well, we had
Oh.
talked about combining them so they have the option of doing the cottage density within the phosphid.
I see.
But then we also talked that could deter people from approving any changes to the phosphid if we combine it into one bylaw. I think we should maybe keep the votes separate.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, so,
I mean, it,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
no, go ahead, Bob.
No, and so I guess the bottom line is mild modifications to the phosphorus as we've discussed, and then have a cottage overlay that would only be appropriate within a phosphid.
Maybe, Pam, what you again, as we were saying, like if you, what's the rule now? Like if you preserve 33%, you know, that you have to preserve 33%, but if you maybe preserve 50%, you get some type of bonus in the phosphorus. That's what you're saying.
No, the changes Randall proposed are that you have to preserve 50%. If you do over 50%, so say you have 100-acre park, just
Yep.
crazy math. You have a 100-acre parcel and you preserve 60 acres instead of the required 50, then you get 10 units of density bonus, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, that
And
makes
be
sense.
very
Yeah.
attractive to a developer.
So you're able to fit in 40 acres, 60 houses, you're saying?
Yeah, just assume,
Yeah.
just assuming everything's upland and, all
Yeah,
that.
yep. Yeah, of course.
So is that your proposal, Pam, to go ahead with that approach? Strip back much of what he had?
I think, I think there should be a density bonus. I think we need to incorporate some type of cap in there, just
Yeah, yeah.
so
we don't
that
have
they don't get
high-rises.
20 extra units on,
Yeah.
And then I also want to be more restrictive about what can count towards that 50% of open space preservation. He has a lot of wetlands and slopes in excess of 25% being able to contribute towards the 50% area, and typically that type of land is excluded from your open space preservation and yield requirements
Yep.
calculation. So I just want to get into that in a little more detail as well.
Yeah, I think, the philosophy, and it's a very old one, starting with Lincoln, Lincoln, Mass, not the president, that there's a lot of stuff based on buildability and state and local regulations that you can't build on anyway.
Right.
So, that's, nothing you should be taking credit for anyway. And I think we should adhere to that philosophy.
And then the only other question I had is if we wanted to include permit stormwater treatment in the open space. So your detention ponds,
Whales, that sort of stuff.
swales, yeah. Some places allow it and some places don't. I've seen it both ways.
Is it unclear in the existing phosphid today about using wetlands to count towards the open space? I feel like that came up maybe in Goose Ponds. In one of our phosphids recently, there was some question about what actually counted towards it. I don't remember if it was just because it was unclear in the bylaw.
I
Does anyone
believe
remember that?
it excludes it, right?
It
I think
specifically excludes it?
I think it allows a certain portion of it to be counted, but not.
That's what it was.
I just read it. I forgot.
Yeah, I know I did too. I have to go get my huge tome of board regs.
Ecode360.com. It's great.
As I looked at this, I looked at these are our regs.
Oh, I see. So 25% of the minimum amount of restricted land can be wetland resource area.
Right.
No more than 25%.
I think that seems reasonable.
You said
Well, I disagree.
25% of the minimum. So does that mean for the minimum amount to meet phosphorus, 75% of it can't be wetland? Is that
This was the wording that some developer was like, no, like this, we can do it up to this amount, and there was some fight with that, and I just don't remember the details of it.
The way I read it is that 25% of the 33% can be wetland,
Yeah,
right? It seems pretty clear. I don't know.
25% of the open space.
Yeah.
exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah, not 25% of the 30, not whatever 25 into 33 is, but yeah, 25% of the 33%. But yeah, maybe they were reading the other way, Mike, that 25% overall.
Yeah, I forget what it was, but there was some going back and forth with, maybe it was with Danielle, I can't remember.
Oh,
Okay, well, so the goal is to amend Foxbridge. There's discussion about requiring the open space be bumped up to 50%,
mhm,
right?
right.
And Pam, you are or are not advocating for a density bonus over that?
I think a density bonus is great, but I think we need to cap it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because you can narrow it down to like 10% of the land and basically, build an apartment building.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
But yeah, the way that Fosford's written, you have to do lots.
And it's got frontage requirements and stuff. So
Mhm.
the minimum lot area with Phosphid is 1 acre. So
Well, yeah, this changes that to 15,000 square feet.
So that's roughly a third of an acre or a little bit over a third.
Yeah, a little
That-
over here.
that seems small. Like, I mean, couldn't
Yeah.
we reduce? So in your example of 100 acres, 50% is open and everything above that. So if you were going down, couldn't you like do it proportionally somehow? Like, so if you're fitting 60 into 40 acres, whatever that ends up being, 60 into 40 acres. What's that?
2/3 of an acre. Yeah. Anyway,
So that 15,000 square feet requires a shared septic system, which can be placed in the open space land.
Yeah, so you do that proportional, but like max it out at like can't get smaller than half-acre lots or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
Yeah.
An acre is, and besides which, in this day and age, people are not particularly willing to take care of an acre. They're
Right.
much happier with a smaller.
yeah,
area.
and an acre used to be Bolton's minimum lot size, at least in 1970, because that's what my house is. We're just on an acre here. And at some point it became 2 acres. Now, the existing phosphid doesn't mention anything about septic or anything like that, right?
There is a little something about it. No septic systems are allowed in the farmland area.
In the open, right,
yeah.
today, yeah. But
Yeah.
so obviously if we reduce, and that's the point of reducing the minimum 1 acre is probably because, okay, you can fit a well and a septic on that with a backup septic as well.
But I think what Randall has written up and is in other places is the use of the common land for septic and wells.
Yes.
And I think that's a great idea, but there has to be a very good homeowner association contract and agreement on how to deal with that. And we also need to spend some time with the Board of Health talking about that. And they're pretty open to that these days. They do have shared systems, but they're all on one lot or the other of the multiple residences that use that. So this would be a bit of a change.
Well, and I mean, we'd have to address that anyway for the cottage
Right, and yep.
overlay, kind of regardless. So I guess one thing to think about is, so that's, I mean, that's all great, like going down to, yeah, I don't know about a third of an acre. I mean, maybe I'm open to whatever here, but you know, once we start getting into shared septic and all that, you know, I don't know if that scares off developers from wanting to use that. So I mean, are there parts of the phosphid that we want to improve? Like even if we said, okay, let's go to 50% open space and half acre minimum lots. I guess the first question is, could we even fit like to ask it another way, what is the minimum lot size that someone could have a septic and a well on? Does anyone know
Well,
that, Bob? Do you?
Regulations are technical. Regulations, it's
Yeah.
pretty
it's-
big. From a technical perspective, if you talk to Bill Brookings, the amount of space required now for a septic system is remarkably small. The issue is the distance between a septic leach field and a well. But I think that's a conversation we need to have pretty quickly to better understand the current technology and what would be allowed under Title V, and perspectives from both the Board of Health and the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, because they have a much broader perspective. So I should think getting together with Bill Brookings, or an equivalent, there's no equivalent to Bill Brookings,
Yeah, we
and have
definitely
that
need to understand
conversation and understand how, how we might do this.
Yeah, I mean, because I just, you know, part of me thinks, again, we write all these bylaws, the, you know, like the mixed village overlay bylaw, and no one ever uses them.
Yeah,
So, you know, we don't want to just make a bunch of amendments to phosphid that no one's ever going to realistically use.
no,
Because they, you know, people are comfortable making single family homes on one lot, right? And it's whatever those sizes are.
and the other part of it is if you have two residences, each on half an acre, you can combine them in terms of well and septic field. And hey, that's happening right now on Main Street. Would have shared septic systems,
Are
but
they?
again,
Yeah.
they're on one lot or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, if it's a third lot, so I think if we can understand, three things. First of all, what do the regulations say? Secondly, what does the technology currently say? And thirdly, what can we do in the way of convincing developers and homeowners associations that it's not a horrible thing to do it?
We also have to keep in mind that all these smaller single-family house lots can also do ADUs.
Right, that's true. Well, and maybe, we have to take that into consideration, that in this case, they can't.
I mean, I assume an 80, actually that's a good point. Does the ADU have to, I mean, a septic is generally sized for the number of bedrooms in the house.
Yep.
Mhm.
How does that work when they do an ADU? Do they?
It doesn't bypass Board of Health regulations, so if they're adding a bedroom that their septic can't accommodate, they would have to upgrade their septic system to meet
Okay.
Board of Health requirements.
Yeah.
Hopefully they put a big one in, in anticipation that one day they might want to expand. A lot of people will do that.
Yeah, oversize the.
Yeah,
the
most
tank.
people do that now.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, so I could take this back, pull out stuff into the regulations. I really think it needs to be shortened. And
sorry, Pam, when you're saying that, are you referring to the document in the shared folder, the 2B phosphid suggested wording? Is that what you're talking about putting into the regulations, or
A
removing
lot
stuff
of it,
from the
parts of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not talking about taking stuff out of the existing phosphid bylaw and putting into regulations, or are you?
The existing we were going to delete and replace.
The entire phosphid. Oh, is that how we're doing it? We're gonna get rid of the entire phosphid and
Yeah.
replace it?
We don't have to, but that's the way Randall wrote the bylaw presentation.
I see.
But you're gonna divide it now into hardcore
Yeah.
bylaw and then also regulations.
And I think parts of ours are clearer than his,
I
honestly.
agree.
So I'd like to go through it and replace some of the suggestions and keep some of ours. I just wanted to get a clear direction, make sure we weren't combining it with cottage, and make sure that you were okay with me pulling some of this out for rules and regs.
And are we still coming up with the number of base units based on a non-phosphid subdivision? So we get
Yeah,
that number.
the yield
Yeah.
plan
Yeah, the yield plan
calculations.
has to be, yeah.
So we get that number, you have to go to 50% open space, then maybe we, if we want to, if you add every acre more to open space or every percentage, whatever calculation we come up with, you can get another unit and we'll have some type of max at some point.
Yes.
That sounds good to me.
One thing I've never fully understood about phosphid is, I mean, it doesn't. We've talked about this. Every development that we've had since I can remember has been a phosphid. No one does the traditional subdivision development, and the phosphid doesn't get you any more houses. It just reduces the lot size.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is there a reason not to just increase if you do phosphid, you can have more than if you had a traditional plan?
I think phosphid is to preserve open space. That's like
Yeah,
the main thing. And where you're saying, well, instead of building 20 houses on the entire lot, you build 20 houses on half the lot, or right now it's 2/3 of the lot. So you're allowed to condense it. You have less impervious because of less roadways, less, you just leave. So that's like the initial intent, I think.
We
Now
also
it's-
I'm sorry. We
No,
we
go
also require they go through the design process if it's over 6 lots or more, so they have to do it anyway, design it for a
Mhm.
phosphid anyway, so it's probably financially beneficial for all the reasons Eric outlined to move forward with that plan.
I'll go with the phosphid.
Yeah.
I mean, and which is obviously the case, because that's what everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the reduced frontage wouldn't be allowed in a conventional subdivision. That's huge.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
so basically, if I
No, go ahead,
understand
Bob.
correctly, you're gonna take pieces of our existing phosphid, what Randall Arendt has recommended for his very long phosphid, put them together into hopefully a reasonably short document, and then amend that or addend that or put in regulations a number of the other things that we're looking for in the development of a phosphid.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, you're going to have a cottage overlay that can be and will be applied to a phosphid, which will have its own specific requirements and I think appeal to developers because it can do more. And part of that will be multifamily housing.
Yes.
Okay, so
So so you're saying in cottage overlay, you can have duplexes essentially.
yeah,
We
Yeah,
allowed
up to 4.
multifamily up to 4 units per building.
It's not like I don't know if did we use the word multifamily in the cottage?
We did, that was one of my comments, we need to define that if we're gonna use the term. So just reading through, it seems like it referenced 3 to 4 units per building.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
think-
think that was just like shared walls. When you hear
Yeah.
multifamily, I think people picture something different, but it's like shared walls.
Okay, that
House
wasn't
style.
clear, so that's good to know. I'll change
Yeah.
that. We won't refer to it as multifamily. We should refer to that as attached.
Yeah, attached, multi-dwelling units or something like that. I don't know.
All right,
Even
I'll
mo-
change that because that I didn't realize that was the case.
Even though, yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily mean anything different, but when people hear, you know,
It
Yeah,
does, because you
multifamily,
can do
it-
one entrance with 4 apartments in a building,
exactly, yeah.
which is much
Yeah.
different than attached single family duplex.
We're building triple deckers in Bolton now.
What are you trying to turn us into, Worcester?
Not I, you wrote it.
So there in that in the Google Drive there was a cottage cottage community bylaw. Did we talk about this yet? So this it's a PDF and it's like I assume this is like a template for a community that wants to do a
Yeah, that was just a template to kind of compare to what it was created by CMRPC.
Yep.
Just to kind of compare. I like yours better, honestly.
Oh really?
But they
Oh.
did have some design criteria that I think would be helpful if we incorporate into the cottage bylaw.
What did they say about the water and sewer?
I can bring up
I was just gonna bring up water. Do we?
Susan
think so-
Carter was
go
actually,
ahead.
she did a presentation at they happen to have a cottage bylaw seminar hosted by CMRPC and Places Site Consultants. Susan Carter, she's a PE there. She did actually design the Craftsman's Village in Bolton, and she did a presentation on some of the DEP requirements and Board of Health requirements, which was pretty helpful. And so that was in the Google Drive, but I'll just review it quickly. So that's Craftsman Village, which she designed, and you're all familiar with. And then she did the Lancaster by the same developer, and it was similar.
Marco Hagan did
house.
that one too? Wow.
Yeah. So she just identified things that we need to consider. Nitrogen sensitive areas will increase your area requirement, and that's for zone 2 water supply areas. Watershed Protection Act, that's DCR tributaries. We don't have that in Bolton, so we don't have those extra restrictions. But something helpful to realize is that public water supplies are considered for any water supply that's shared that services more than 25 people. And you have to account for 2 people per bedroom. So as we allow density increases on smaller lot sizes, we would run into that anything over 25 people served by a shared water system would have to meet DEP public water supply standards. That increases your land preservation and wellhead area.
So you could
That-
have two bedroom, 2 1 bedroom in the same structure and live within that, right?
So
When you're doing your calculations for
Yeah.
how many people your supply services, you have to account for 2 per bedroom.
Right.
And a way around that was I guess, which they utilized in the Craftsman Village area, was to each lot gets one shared water supply, one shared well. So if you can create wells on different lots for as long as they service 25 people or less, then it wouldn't be considered a shared water supply. I'll show you a diagram because I didn't explain that well.
I see. So that's basically saying you don't need to create you don't have to follow the guidelines of all the public water supply stuff, as long as
Right.
you do not individual wells, but you can do shared wells up to 25 people.
Yep.
Yeah, but one per lot, so you can create different lots and locate the wells and service a denser area than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you said that's what Craftsman Village does, is they,
Yeah, they technically created a few lots and for this purpose to put what wells on the different lots to service the development to avoid having to meet public water supply standards.
and so to be clear, this was, Susan Carter, you said, so she was giving this advice on like what, you know, what would be attractive to a builder to, um, to put into a cottage overlay, right? Basically saying like, don't force
Well-
me to make a public water supply because that's expensive and costly to maintain and
it's-
operate.
It's very expensive. That I don't think was her intent. She was just pointing out things for towns to consider as they develop cottage overlay bylaws.
Okay.
And that was one of them, and she just happened to design the Craftsman Village here in Bolton and reference that well design that they did.
And how did they handle septic there?
They did a shared septic, which you can do for 10,000, up to 10,000 gallons per day. Anything above that would have to meet sewage treatment standards.
And so is there only a single shared septic system?
I think so, yeah.
I actually think they might have, maybe I'm misremembering. I think they might have reduced their plan just to get into that. But maybe I misremember. I do feel like they reduced it at one point for some reason.
You know, it might be worthwhile when we get this a little more firmed up to run it by Mark O'Hagan, who lives in Bolton. And he was instrumental in the housing production plan for Bolton.
Didn't he develop the Craftsman Village?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
But he's got a great deal of experience about how to do it in a way that would attract developers.
Yeah, he presented at this seminar as well.
Did he? Good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually on that committee that did that. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
super helpful.
Great. I mean, these are exactly the kind of resources we need. And I feel like those are the like now those water and septic things, are those things that we would put into the bylaw, or those are just things that those are state regulations and they just have to follow them.
They're Title
we-
V and they trump
Right.
zoning bylaw. We really can't
Yeah.
regulate them.
But you want to make sure that whatever we suggest can be done using those regulations.
Well, and when I was looking at the that cottage overlay, the draft that we had, which I think was kind of finished, that one still had the 55 plus, which I thought we pulled out of the last version of it and just reduced it to no more than 2 bedrooms, and we said that sort of achieves what we want to without everything that had to happen with it being age restricted.
Yeah, I thought we pulled it out. I thought we pulled it out as well.
Yeah, that gets tricky.
Because the draft that we have of the cottage
Here, let me
overlay
pull that up.
district, that still references all the 55 plus stuff, and I really thought we pulled that stuff out.
Yeah, I
For-
think,
for
I
just-
mean, talking about it now, I think we definitely want to like remove that because just the development in nature lends towards less people.
Yeah,
Look, I'm
Um,
sitting here talking.
because the presentation the Craftsman Village, that's not age restricted, right?
No, it's not even mentioned in that. It's not required, but it is mentioned. And
Oh, well, okay, so we have it in there as a definition, but what, we didn't actually use it later?
it is in here, and then we give a
Oh.
density bonus for it.
Oh, I see. We say it could be age restricted to 55 and over, but
Yeah.
not that it was required.
So I don't know if that's,
One of the challenges with having a few 55 or older
I don't
residents.
know where my comments went. I'm sorry. They're gone. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, I think one of the challenges is who monitors all of those limitations on people who can live there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, places do that, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah. But to a large degree, they're in the business of doing it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's, we eventually moved away from, I guess I would have thought we pulled it out totally, but it looks like we just left it in and said someone could age restrict it if they want, but it's not required.
Right,
So
and then
Eric-
we give a density bonus for it.
Yeah, so Eric, that must have been what we did.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
think-
I gotta reread all these. I
I
forgot
just
a lot
remember
of it.
getting feedback from whether developers or realtor. I think realtors specifically saying they were having a hard time selling 55 plus places. Now this was years ago. It's a different real estate situation now, but
Yeah.
okay. So Pam, for the cottage overlay, so what?
Well, I had some questions. I had a draft in there with all my comments on, and my comments are all gone. I'm not sure if they didn't, with the cottage overlay bylaw. We all went in and
Did you move it out of? So this is in the October 23rd
yeah,
folder we're looking at.
yeah,
Is it in
I'll
one of
find
the
it.
other ones? Yeah. Okay.
I don't, sometimes Google loses things,
Oh,
comments.
no.
Okay, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to? I mean, I don't. We're biting off
Yeah.
a lot there with Fosbrit and Cottage, but people should just reread through the Cottage overlay. Pam, if you want, we can add comments to that. I don't know if you want to make a separate drive folder for and not have it be per date, but just per project.
Yeah, there is one. I just put it in the folder for ease, and I think that's where my comments went astray. So
Yeah, I think if you
I'll figure
move
out where they
yeah,
went.
if you copied the document, it might not keep the comments.
Yeah, I think that might have
document.
happened, but there is that folder, so I'll just send the links out to the project specifically. I was just trying to make it easier for meeting reference, but
No, appreciate that.
screwed it
Do
up.
you have, did you say you had questions on?
Yeah, I outlined some questions I wanted to discuss. That's why I was looking for the Google Drive. Just give me 1 second and I'll bring them up.
Yep.
I think I put them in the summary. Okay, we went over that. I had a question, about the definition of multifamily and if we wanted it to be 3 to 4, but we discussed that. I'm trying- This isn't the summary. And then there's a lot of description about affordable housing in the cottage district overlay bylaw. And I thought we could just refer to our inclusionary zoning requirements instead of requiring something different. I didn't know why that was identified
When you
as.
talk about that, I mean, I remember we were talking about like max sizes of units, which would, which would definitely do kind of like price restrictions, kind of like limiting the max size and
Mhm.
make it,
Just be affordable by way of the development itself.
yeah, exactly.
So we wanted to reduce the inclusionary zoning requirement. There's a lot in there that's different than the bylaw. That's why I was just,
Yeah, I mean, I have to read it over it again.
What's the Supreme Court ruling?
so there was just a Supreme Court ruling. Someone brought a case forward, sued a community about inclusionary zoning requirements. And this hasn't trickled down yet, but the court ruled that it was a taking and that you can't require it without sort of some sort type of compensation. And it's a very
can't-
new ruling that
Ah.
hasn't kind of trickled down to the communities yet. So we're waiting to hear what's going to happen based on that court
You
decision.
can't require any affordable requirements or just like the fee in lieu of.
Both. You can't, without some sort of compensation, you can't require someone to develop affordable housing. It's almost considered a taking.
I see. Okay.
So there has to be some type of compensation provided if you're requesting inclusionary zoning, like a density bonus would qualify as a compensation because they have an opportunity to make additional income for that sort of what the courts ruled was a taking by selling a unit at reduced cost. You can't just require someone to do that. There has to be some sort of monetary value provided to them for that provision.
Yeah.
Which has gone kind of against the way the state's been promoting housing, but we'll have to deal with it as it comes down.
Well, I think in like the cottage overlay, just by limiting the size of the units, so if we have like, some type of like menu where, certain size and to density bonus, so the smaller the units, the bigger density bonus you get, that would kind of get the job done.
And realistically, our inclusionary zoning stuff has not produced any affordable units. I mean, most people do fee in
Moderator
lieu
Way,
of.
I think Keys Farm has.
That was
One?
the one where they retained the one house and made it a rental. So yeah, that is probably the only example. I think everyone else has been fee in lieu of.
Mhm.
And I know that the Affordable Housing Trust uses that to pay down or make houses more affordable. But it's like that's all just like nipping around the edges. It doesn't really do anything to help. Like we're not really
No.
building affordable housing. The only time that happens is when a 40B comes in and just does it.
Right.
Yeah, so
So,
the
I mean,
goal would be, and that's the whole cottage overlay, is to just make smaller houses that
make
are
smaller units.
affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. So I agree with that.
And then I just wanted to make sure we want to limit them to 2 bedrooms because that kind of omits a lot of families.
I mean, that could factor into the density of it for sure. And what are Craftsman Village just 2 bedrooms?
I'm not positive
I mean, so what did
what the mix of bedroom counts are in there.
yeah, and then kind of again going back to your that presentation. I mean, I assume that must talk, like, so much of those calculations are based on the bedrooms that it seems like they want to
Mm-hmm.
reduce those as much as possible. I mean, again, I'm open to basically anything with it. To Eric's point, it seems like keeping reducing the size of the building, limiting the number of bedrooms is hopefully keeping the prices affordable. Now, I see when some of these Craftsman Village houses go for sale and they sell for a lot of money, so that didn't necessarily help with the affordability.
Okay, so I will make some of those revisions. Some of the stuff that was proposed by Randall just isn't allowed. We can't require water conservation fixtures and faucets and toilets and that type of thing. That's out of what the zoning bylaw is allowed. We can't address any sort of building code issues.
When it gets to water, what about things like irrigation?
In terms of requiring it or not requiring it,
Well,
or
you know, or limiting it to specific methods. I mean, aerial irrigation of lawns. If people are worried about water and wells, that's one of the biggest draws on wells.
so you want to prohibit, I'll have to look into that, prohibiting irrigation in the zoning.
Well, the
It may
types
need
of,
to go somewhere else. but-
yeah, I mean, if you do, you know, drip tape irrigation for shrubbery, it's phenomenally efficient and doesn't use much water. You know, having drought resistant grass, things like that. I don't know how much you can impose on people
Mhm.
in that respect, but I just got the town to agree on it with the town common, that we aren't gonna do irrigation, we're gonna do, you know, good grass, you know, and drought resistant grass instead of that. And it's proven to be pretty cost effective and resilient, particularly if you're gonna do organized sports on it. Not that that's gonna happen on the lawns of our cottage overlay.
Yeah, I think saying like no irrigation allowed might, be too onerous, but if we could suggest more efficient,
Yeah,
so just suggest, like you just mentioned, yeah.
Okay, so Pam, you're gonna well, what are the steps for the cottage
Well, we
overlay?
have
What do
we have the base in there, which was in the Google Drive. I'll put it back in the folder, or it still is in the folder, but the one in the project folder has all the comments on there. So I'll send that out to everyone just to revisit it, and I'll go in there and make the amendments about the multifamily definitions and button up the inclusionary zoning requirements. Did you want me to share the?
Where
I'm
did we
sorry.
stand? I'm sorry, where did we stand with like design review board? That would be applicable, right?
It's not in there, but we can. That was, there's some design guidelines in the model bylaw that I shared that I thought would be helpful to incorporate.
Yeah, because I know when Randall was talking about like, the row of garage after garage after garage,
Yeah, that's all
Well,
in
we-
there.
that's
Oh.
addressed in the like that
Yeah.
shouldn't be design. DRB is just like look and feel of the shingle style or stuff like that.
Right.
All that other stuff we want in the bylaw.
Yeah, that's in there.
Okay.
It just doesn't specifically reference design review board.
Oh, okay, got it.
I thought we had that in the original one, but maybe not.
I don't recall reading it.
Design criteria.
I think the
Yeah.
bylaw,
Oh yeah, no, the planning board shall invoke the design review board to review the architectural
okay.
details. Yeah, so it is in there.
It is in there. Okay.
Yeah.
And the design review board is separate from the planning board, is that right? Do we have people in
They're-
town who serve on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're advisory to the planning board. You appoint them.
I see.
And they're all architects, right?
I don't know if they all are.
No, Danielle's not.
Danielle's an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Michelle is an architect.
Yep.
She'll talk.
I don't know who the third one is.
They've gone into hiding since we haven't called them in like 6 years or so.
I mean, again, that's all look and feel stuff. That's like little details. That's not
Right.
really the overall, you know, the stuff that we're really mostly concerned with.
But the basic layout is in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the plan then for next town meeting would be the ADU stuff, which is straightforward. Amend Fosbrid, do cottage overlay, and then we've got some other things on here. So the floodplain district bylaw, so that's just adopting a new map, which we need to do. The scenic road bylaw is simply updating names, right? There's no real
Yeah,
plan
there's not
changes
much to
it.
that. It's just incorrect road name references.
It's amazing
Um,
it didn't get picked up earlier.
Yeah.
That's weird because they were egregiously wrong too,
Yeah.
a lot of them. So the other ones there, the sign bylaw.
Yes. We
So
have
you
a
wanna talk-
very vague sign by law and it's causing a lot of issues with interpretation. And so I want to increase the details and just make it more descriptive on what's allowed and what's not, what's temporary, and when it's allowed, that type of thing.
Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to just?
No, I'm
put
not ready
something
f-
together. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put something together and then we can discuss it. And
And
that's
then you
under,
ha-
that's
could we-
under jurisdiction of the select board.
Right, I was gonna say, could we make it like descriptive enough where they wouldn't have to go before the select board, like?
Yeah, that's an unusual process. Usually
Right.
you
it's
create your
kinda crazy.
description. Yeah, I agree. Usually you create your description and then if the sign meets the bylaw, it gets a automatic approval of a sign permit by the.
I mean, I try to watch a bunch of the select board meetings. I haven't done in a while, but every time one of those comes before, it just seems too much. It just seems kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, and the more descriptive it is, the less you have to kind of,
And if they violate,
Go back and
whatever the bylaw is, then the building inspector points it out. And then you maybe have to go before a board or something, but you shouldn't have to. They have to go and show, color schemes and different stuff.
yeah, and temporary signs for events require
Yeah,
hearings, so it's a more involved than what's typical. So I thought
Yeah.
increasing the detailed requirements on that would be helpful in just issuing permits for things that satisfy the requirements.
what about a site plan? Is that gonna get transferred over to planning board? But I know the
Yes.
so the select board's gonna do that.
They don't, from my last discussion with the town administrator, they don't really have any desire to keep that responsibility. That'll be a simple fix, of just changing select board to planning board.
Last one you had on there was home occupation bylaw.
Yeah, our home occupation bylaw is extremely vague and doesn't limit the uses. So we've run into some issues with interpretation on that as well, so we want to increase the requirements.
I
The
think this would, like,
details anyway.
issues with like landscapers having too many vehicles and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, and then retail uses are allowed. There's just a lot of things that go uncontrolled because they're allowed by right and there's no size restriction on anything. It's a very vague requirement. It just says it has to be incidental to the home, which leads a lot up for interpretation.
I don't even know what that means. But
So
yeah, no, that's fine.
the-
Yeah. So
okay.
I know I brought this up last time and it's maybe not something people want to touch, is the split zones.
Yeah, it looks like we tried that in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And it failed. There's just only so many bylaws I can
Right.
tackle for each year, so.
And I think we've got a lot with this one.
Yeah.
That one, I mean. Yeah. Okay,
We need to have our fully written bylaws prepared and submitted to the select board by March 12th.
And we have to have our public hearing before that, so,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Typically, we had our public hearings like late February, like our
Right.
second meeting in February.
Yeah, that would align with the March 12th requirement. We are gonna have, I don't know if council typically reviewed them before your public hearing, but that's the intent this time around.
I think they did. Yeah, I think we got, especially on the ones that had a lot of legalese to it,
Mhm.
like the cottage overlay and Fosbury Woods.
Like everything we're proposing.
So
So
I'll, the model floodplain bylaw, we have to add additional requirements that the state's requiring and reference revised maps, so that shouldn't be a heavy lift. I have all the models, I just need to incorporate them into our bylaws and change the map references.
So this,
And how
like, so,
significant?
hold on,
Okay.
so this isn't something that you can get done for this year, but like.
The
the whole
floodplain?
No, I was talking about something, I was gonna bring something else up. The
Oh,
Forbush Road and Main Street, that whole commercial zone, like, I would like over the next couple of years if we could reimagine some type of, developable business district, getting rid of the DPW, using the Tadmore business zone land, Frank Chiodo's land, the classic pizza land. If we
Mhm.
could, work on, and it's probably like it's probably like a year or two process and we might have to talk to like other towns or developers and figure out what we can do and how we can, make it.
DPW is obviously the biggest,
Yeah,
like what we do with that is the biggest.
right. That's definitely a multi-stage process, but I mean, as the planning board, I would like to work on a future plan for that,
Yep.
those
I
parcels.
agree with that,
Yep, me too.
definitely.
Might be helpful
Okay.
too if we wait till the rotary's done and then,
Yeah, I
Have
wasn't saying
yeah.
I wasn't saying rush into it, but
Mhm.
yeah.
No, I think that's great. Yep.
Give the DPW some bathrooms too.
I hate to beat a dead horse on this one, but it would be very nice to have a focused area review and overlay set of maps for that area, so we understand what we got.
What do you mean, Bob?
Oh, one of the things we did for the master plan was we took the intersection of the southwest intersection of 495 and 117, and we overlaid all of the limitations and ownership of that land, including, wetlands, public water supplies, topography, et cetera, to figure out what could be done there and how it might be rezoned. And we never got to the point of getting all of the information together and in a series of GIS layers, overlaying it so we knew what we were looking at. And it was very interesting, very, very useful indeed.
I see.
But it
And
would
so
be
you want
nice
to
to
keep
have the
something
same
similar?
information.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
Anything else on the bylaw changes for tonight that we want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
I just shared this. Bob had asked for income limits for FY 24 for inclusionary zoning requirements. So I'm just sharing. We're considered Eastern Worcester County. And the median family income is $147,400. A family of four is capped at $97,800. And I thought that was an error in math, but actually it's we're not allowed to exceed the area median income for the United States, so they cap it at that amount.
See.
So no matter the area income, it's capped at 97,000 for every county.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is releasing the peer review fee from 27 Forbush Mill Road. So this was the applicant that came to us a few meetings ago that was gonna build two driveways on Forbush Mill Road, and we talked them into doing a shared driveway. I believe was the outcome of that, right, Pam?
Yeah, he filed a common driveway application through special permit, but because he didn't have one of the requirements for a common driveway is that at least one of the backland lots be a backland lot, and because he didn't have enough area to satisfy that, he amended his development proposal to include a shared driveway and an individual driveway, so we didn't send that out for peer review. So there were no drainage calculations involved. So there's $3,000 in a peer review account that isn't being utilized. So I'm suggesting that the board vote to release those funds and return them to the applicant.
Anyone have concerns with that?
No.
I'll make a motion to release the peer review fund for 27 Forbush Mill Road to the applicant.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye.
I'll release those back to the applicant. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is continuing discussion of the solar decommissioning fund. So we talked a little bit about this last time. So Pam, first off, you found some new information that it's two separate projects. Do you
Yeah,
wanna-
we have two decommissioning agreements from the same company for the same property. But they were done in different phases. So the first phase was a 4.95 megawatt facility, which is the one that we're reviewing tonight. And so the initial deposit into that was $300,000, and it accrued interest over the last 10 years. And the board is required to evaluate that amount at the 10-year mark to see if it is sufficient to cover the decommissioning costs that we expect, or we can require additional funds be deposited into the account or release funds to the developer if we are holding money in excess of what's required to decommission the project. And then there's a smaller project that directly abuts this. That is 2.5. And that has to be evaluated at the 10-year mark too, and that expires in a few months, well, January of 2025. And that's the account where they deposit $5,000 on an annual basis. But that initial deposit was only $25,000 as required by the approval. So that's much smaller amount. It's only $60,000 and change in that account.
They're continuing to put money into that one, but not the $300,000 account.
Right. It's accruing interest, so it's accrued about $41,000 over the last 10 years, and it will continue to do so. I would suggest that we hold the existing funds. According to their estimates provided, it far exceeds what we need to decommission the property if required, after we sell the materials on site. I'm trying to find the.
And you spoke with a couple other
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not terribly familiar with this. Kimley Horn was hired by the applicant. They were actually required to submit a decommissioning analysis by a peer review consultant. So they hired Kimley Horn to submit this, and we didn't have anything to compare it to, and I'm not terribly familiar with solar decommissioning. So I got comparables from abutting communities of projects of similar size and compared them, and they seem right in line with the costs and represented in those other estimates.
Okay, so for tonight, we're talking about the larger of the two parcels. We currently have, sorry, what's it, a little over 300 and,
We have $341,000 and some change in there.
okay. And the developer's no longer contributing money to that account, but we think based on the report from Kimley Horn and research you did from surrounding communities, that the money we have in that account, when you take into account the salvage value of that stuff, is in excess of what we would need. Should this ever come to pass, which again is, this is, you know, hopefully not gonna happen, but
Don't forget
So-
CME.
yeah, right. Little bit different, I think, and
It
so
is,
again, so the board, you know, we need to decide here whether we basically return any money, ask for more money, or stay as is. And Pam's recommendation, and I agree with her, is to keep it as is. We don't release any money to the applicant, but we don't require them to pay anything additional in at the moment. So thoughts from the
agree.
board?
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, the
Stay
only-
as is.
Fine to me.
The only
Well,
missing piece of the pro forma that I saw was, having been in this situation, there's lots of discussion about the individual components of decommissioning and offset with salvage, but there is absolutely nothing in there about management, contracting, and everything that we would have to do if it ever came to this, which is not an insignificant piece of change.
Yeah, I mean, we would own all of that. We would have to do all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We would.
And I
Yeah.
think Kimley Horn gave a bottom line number for what they felt it would cost, and I assume that means also because they know we're a, you know, a public, you know, municipality, that would also putting it out to bid, you know, managing it, all that, like all that cost is part of what the total decommissioning cost would be. That's the impression I would get.
Well, I would ask that question because they had very detailed line items, right down to the price of gasoline, number of miles, cost of trucking, da, and kind of overlooked what I have spent my life making money at.
So, Bob, do you want to get that information?
I would
from
ask the
them?
question.
Sure, that's,
And Meg, you might be absolutely correct that they put a factor in here, you know, some sort of 10% uplift on everything. I don't know what it is. But it'd be good to ask the question.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably never gonna happen, but if it were, I'd hate to have to go back to the town.
Yeah, agreed. And again, so Pam, just so this, we're just doing this because it's we've hit the 10-year mark, although I think we've actually gone well past it. Is that?
yeah, the agreement was signed in May of 2013.
Okay, yeah, so we're, you know, year and a half past this review process. The applicant is not asking, are they asking for money to be returned?
No,
This is just, you're sort of proactively doing this at this point.
they requested we evaluate it and let them know if we require additional funds or agree with their cost estimates.
Okay, so to Bob's point, are you in discussion with Kimley Ward, or do you do everything?
No,
Kim
I
Warren?
deal directly with Sincarfa, so I'm happy to
Okay.
contact them and clarify that.
Yeah. Anything else, Bob, that you want to?
No, that's the only thing that jumped out at me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically ask them, does that take does their total cost, what was the total? I don't have the report in front of me. I think that was.
Yeah,
from the last
Yeah,
I
one.
the
was
note
having
is-
trouble loading it. It says we're gonna get a profit actually of 300 and something thousand. but I'm having trouble loading it. I was trying to share it, but
Does this take into account future costs for things too? I'm not sure if that's
no, we're not,
No,
the agreement doesn't allow for that, unfortunately.
okay.
Be great.
Yeah.
So that
But-
would eat into our $300,000 profit, I would imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, and solar fields have become quite popular. And they're all have about a 25-year useful life, so there'll be more and more coming into the salvage and recycling end of things for sure.
I was very surprised at, first of all, the efficiency after 20 years and the ability for salvage after 20 years.
Metal, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, the panels themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of copper.
Yeah, the wire was particularly the big diameter DC stuff.
Let me see if I can get it.
Would it be reasonable to ask them to share their backup of some of these costs, like 37 cents per linear foot to backfill a trench? That's
Real cheap.
pretty cheap.
Really, really cheap. For trenching?
Yeah, my car is 37 cents per linear foot, almost joking, but that's a pretty low number. And then I don't see any excavation on here either. They're backfilling, but I don't see an excavation line item.
Were you able to, I can't get it to download from the Google Drive on my computer for some reason.
Yeah, it's not that I didn't download it, but it just opens right in my browser.
It won't open in my computer for whatever reason. Some of it does. It did last time. I don't know why. I'll try to-
If you can't, I've downloaded it and I could display.
here we go. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I was having trouble with that.
Very good.
This total price including markups, which I don't know if that means like prevailing wage as a markup.
I know the report requires they do it according to town of Bolton expenses, but it's not clear what
What they used for the markup.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have some number that we typically use for prevailing wage. I don't know what it is.
Well, the markup would normally refer to overhead. So they may well have incorporated that.
Which is really
Right.
what your question is, right, Bob?
That's exactly what it is. So I mean, maybe we should ask it that way. Does their markup incorporate contracting, accounting, and project management?
Okay, I'll go back to them and ask that question.
And even I guess
And I'll ask about the excavation and trench fill as well.
yeah. I mean, even if they say no, it doesn't, okay, add in 50,000, they're still projecting a nearly $330,000 profit
Mhm.
off of that. So on one hand, we can go back and ask them the question. And if they say, no, oops, sorry, we forgot that, that's another $100,000.
It's still
Then I mean,
profitable
it's good
business.
to put it in there, but that's still a profit to us from that.
Yeah.
So the question is, would anything that they've left out, be over $300,000 that would
No.
cause us to say, no, we need more money from you at this point?
No.
Probably not, but I do think that, like future cost of things, and I think they're using today's prices for materials that, in terms of the value of reclaimed material. So I feel like those two things combined could significantly eat into that margin we have here. But I don't think it would cost more, is my intuition here.
But the one to your point, Boston, inevitably because of all these solar fields that are coming online and will be being sold and salvaged at the same time. This stuff in salvage could be a glut on the market, and that
Yeah.
green would not be anywhere near as green.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there's just no way to project it.
Right.
Seems like the salvage rate is just based on that note number 6, which is negative 0.5% per year, which I assume is based on the original purchase value, but it's not really supported by a actual salvage value.
Mm.
That's 560
No.
of the 560 of the 847. Copper is relatively easy to figure out that cost of salvage, but I don't know what the photovoltaic recycle rate is. But it doesn't seem like it's supported by a quote or a market rate. It's just supported by note 6, maybe. I don't know if they have further support for that 560,000 line item.
Well, they use that in the following table, which is based on the same number,
Right here, yeah.
0.5% per year.
But how realistic is that? I
I don't
suppose.
know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But that's such a large number of the salvage value.
Yeah, as I said, undoubtedly it'll be a glut on the market, but as it may be, I don't think we can take exception
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that. Pam, did when you talk to the other communities, did they also have some sort of like a projected total cost? And was that in line with like the total salvage value? And was
One,
that in line?
not every community allowed them to account for salvage values. We probably shouldn't going forward in our any future agreements. But their costs were in line with ours, and then the community that did allow for salvage values actually was very similar to the Kimley Horn estimate.
Did Kimley Horn do their
Yeah.
estimate also?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so I guess there's a lot of unknowns here. I think it's, to Bob's point, it's good to ask them some follow-up questions, get answers on it. I don't know that it's going to fundamentally change anything, but let's get answers to those, and then we can hopefully wrap this up in the next meeting.
Okay,
As a minimum, it'll make them realize we actually read this stuff.
That we looked at it. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, so that was the decommissioning report. Okay, we have approval of minutes from July 24th. And those were in the Google Drive folder. Were these AI generated?
no, they're Lauren generated.
Someone doesn't like paragraphs.
Yeah.
But I was fine with the meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone took a look through those.
Hey, Pam, there were some action items in this that I don't think we heard back on.
From who, Bob?
A couple of us. One of them I had asked, I think, about their drainage calculations and whether they had done a projection as a result of the NOAA projections of increased precipitation, and they said they didn't know and they'd get back to us. And I think that was in the minutes. Also, I'm not sure who asked about the specific analysis they had done for the potential for an accident near a school. And they were going to get back on that as well, and I haven't heard from that.
An accident? I
Yeah,
don't recall
pipeline.
that.
The gas pipeline, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess on one level, that ship has sailed. We approved that site plan review.
yeah.
That-
Also, I don't know if Pam did Randy Haglin forwarded you the review that Beta Engineering had done of the traffic report and found a significant error which probably won't change the results, but needs to be incorporated?
The one-way sign, the 2-lane traffic into the rotary
No, it
with a
was-
right-hand lane?
The traffic study had assumed a right-hand turning lane on.
Yep, that's in our decision that they correct that and
Okay, thank you. That's
Yep.
fine.
He didn't give me a report, but he forwarded me an email from Beta, which identified that as a incorrect reference in the
Okay,
traffic
so
study.
I contacted him about crossing, and he brought that up to me as well.
Okay, yep. Yeah, that's in the conditions that they
Okay, thank you.
fix
That's
that.
good.
Yep.
Okay, so all that aside, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from July 24th, 2024.
Second,
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye.
The July 24th minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0. Austin, you are absent, so we need you to recuse from voting on this one.
Sure, I recuse from voting.
I think the only other item of business is setting our, well, the only other item of business I had was to set our November schedule. Second and fourth Wednesdays would put us at the 13th, and then the 27th, which is the day before Thanksgiving, so we don't want to do that. So I'm proposing we meet on the 6th and the 20th, if that works for people.
Works for me.
Yeah, we're still gonna be watching the election, right?
Oh, yeah, we can't,
That's
well,
Wednesday. No, that's when. So
It's a
the
Wednesday,
voting day
right?
is Tuesday. This
oh,
is-
yeah.
This is Wednesday. Yeah, we're fine.
Either watching the election or
We'll still be watching the election.
Yeah.
commencing the destruction of the aftermath.
Okay, anything else that anyone wanted to discuss?
Did you hear anything else about Colonial Candy and what was going in there or no?
No, not since what I reported at the last meeting. The owner's realtor contacted us to get on the planning board agenda to discuss possible uses that the board would support at the site, but they didn't have any proposals, so.
I mean, eventually they do come through for the special permit process, right? So.
Right. They had no preliminary proposals or ideas to discuss, so I didn't think it would be beneficial at this point.
Yeah, there's nothing to.
Yeah.
Nothing to talk about.
As the planning board thinking about the future, do we have any ideas for what that place, what that space could be? I mean,
Well, it's in the limited business zone, so, anything that would fit in there, retail, anything that fits in there is good.
does it include like restaurants or things like that in limited business?
By
Yes.
special permit.
Okay,
It'd be a great place for a restaurant.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, it has decent parking, so.
Yeah.
Public water supply though, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it must have it. They serve ice cream, so. And they make foods.
Unless they make it off-site, maybe.
No, they make
Yeah,
the
I don't
chocolate,
know.
right? They make the chocolate on site.
They could be grandfathered in there too. I don't know. I mean, it's been there for a while, right?
Can you be?
I don't know. We have a
grandfathered in?
long list of questions for Bill Brookings, so.
I mean, I assume they have a public water supply, but I don't know.
When you
Uh-huh.
say a public water supply, what do you mean? Someone testing it? I mean,
Yeah, do you,
Yeah,
No,
when-
well,
when you s-
there's like a bigger radius that you have to have, stuff like that, I think.
yeah. I mean, that is a 3 or a 4 acre property there, so I mean, I'm sure they just have a well, but
I mean, they serve food, so.
When you prepare food and serve water to the public, you triggered additional DEP requirements. You're considered a public water supply, and so you have to have I think it's a 400-foot radius around your well of undisturbed area.
They're right next to the highway, so I don't know how that would work, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
One,
Anything else?
yeah, just one thing that occurred to me today when I heard it, the importance of access to business to the success of the business. Robinson's Hardware is going out of business because people can't turn left out of the front.
Oh, in Hudson, yeah.
Hmm.
Yep, it's a tough location there for sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very old store.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I didn't know they were going out of business. It's too bad.
Yeah, yeah, that came up today.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone,
Right,
and we will
thanks.
talk on November 6th.
Right.
See you then.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.